Okay, this trade was a trade I made in the ES, and I made this trade based on the 30-minute chart, the 4-hour chart, and the daily chart. The 30-minute chart, I was looking at this green bar here and this red bar. When I made the trade, it wasn't red. It was actually green and looked like it wanted to break out and kind of move higher. I know it wasn't a high probability trade. I was looking at the green bar on a 4-hour chart, and we're under the 20 moving average. So I was looking forward to try to come and test back up into this area here, the 2500 area, which is the psychological area, and also which is the resistance area where the previous day closed and today opened up. So 2500 was that psychological level that I was watching. We had a nice uptrend. We had a nice uptrend here. We had a nice uptrend here. He was holding this uptrend. He was holding this uptrend on a 30-minute chart and a 4-hour chart. So I was kind of expecting a push, maybe some buyers to come up and try to give it a push up into the 2503.50 area. But as you can see, we had this downtrend resistance, and we had this downtrend resistance on a 4-hour chart. So we was kind of in this wedge. We was kind of in this wedge here, just staying inside here, inside this wedge. So I was expecting a little break and maybe above this this previous 4-hour bar that had this dump. It started to make its way back up. I hold the trend line, and I was hoping that maybe we'll push a little higher into this area. So looking at the 30-minute bar, the 4-hour bar, looking at the daily bar, when sellers started selling it off, we saw buyers buying it back up. We saw these spikes here. And when we see these spikes, what I'm looking for is the area where the buyers are stepping in. And the buyers are stepping in this area here. Let's see if I can make that a little darker so you can see. The buyers are stepping in this area here. So I was expecting a red to green bar for the daily chart. I was trying to see if we can get a red to green bar where buyers push up from red to green and have a nice little push here and here. So that's what I was expecting. And if that would happen, then the trade would be good. I got in early. on this trade, and the trade where I got in early was around 10 o'clock. This arrow right here, if you can see it. I got in right here around 10 o'clock. I saw the break of this high. This consolidated a little bit. Then the next bar opened up higher at the high and started to push up. So I got in above this break, this swing high, and was expecting for a push higher based on the pattern I saw on a 30-minute chart, what I saw on the 4-hour chart, and what I was expecting to happen on the daily chart. Now during the day went on, price didn't break out and pulled back. My stop was at 24.93 over here on the dome. My stop was 24.93, and that was right above the S2 level. 24.93 was right above the S2 level, maybe a little bit below this swing low. So that was my trade. We stayed in this box here. for the entire day. We stayed in this box range for the entire day. Didn't come down to test my stop. And so at the end of the day, I was expecting the end of the day push, red to green on the daily chart, and was hoping that we got some momentum from this bullish green bar. From this bullish green bar here. And that was the trade. That was the thought process. And let's see what happens. And also another thing I want to point out is a chart pattern that I liked. I didn't have that chart pattern at 10 o'clock. It happened during the day. The chart pattern kind of played out. I want to show it to you. It's the ABC pattern. And the ABC pattern has a run up, comes back down to B, swing low, and then it kind of makes another lower high and pushes up. So the top of this part would be the A. The lower part, this higher swing low, would be the B. And right here, let me pull up an arrow. The entry would be right here above this bar, this green bar right here, if you can see it. This bar right here would be C. That would be your entry point. You got the A, swing high, came down and made a higher low. That's B, chopped around a little bit and made a higher low here. And C would be right here, the entry above this this bar where price is starting to move higher. Now this ABC pattern, I'm looking at the 4-hour chart and I'm seeing that, okay, the 4-hour chart, we can possibly break above or test this pivot. That was my first target. And then my second target was before 24.0467. It was in between these two targets because we had this resistance and we had this resistance here. So I was trying to get in between those resistance. And I was also expecting a red to green on the daily chart. So that was my trade, and let's see what happened. We'll see how it played out. Okay, I'm in at 24.98.25. Okay, I'm in at 24.98.25. And I'm looking forward to maybe break out of this trend line. At least come up and test it. At least get one of my positions out. I'm expecting a red to green on the daily chart. So on my multiple time frames, I'm looking at the pattern, that ABC pattern. At this point, I got in early. I was in at 10 o'clock, but at this point, I see the ABC pattern. So I'm like, let me see if this works out into the close. It's getting some momentum. It's getting some strength. So I'm going to hold and see if it's going to work out, if it's going to play out. I'm trying to see if the 4-hour bar can get a pop. And if we can get from red to green, I'm taking screenshots right now. Because I journal by taking screenshots and videotaping my trade. So to this pivot at 2500, which is the psychological level. Everybody's watching 2500. If we can get above and stay above 2500 at the close, then I was kind of confident that we can get up to 23.50 with a push. If the daily bar goes from red to green, all the sellers would be trapped. And for the sellers that feel the pain over 25, I was hoping that they would start buying back their positions. And if they bought back, then that would propel or give some type of momentum to the price at the close of the day. So above the black line, the 2500, that black line is my pivot. That over the pivot is bullish. Under the pivot is bearish. So over the pivot you have your resistance 1, your resistance 2, your R3. Below the pivot you have your S1, your S2, your S3, your support 1, your support 2, and your support 3. So I'm expecting it to break the 25, stay above 25, go to red to green, and give a little momentum and some strength to the upside. And I'm just waiting for it to pop. I'm waiting for that red to green to pop. Now this is the first time that we have tested the high of the day. So a lot of times the first test of the high of the day you can short. The first resistance you can short. This was the end of the day, so I was looking for it to push higher. But I know that the first test, you can short the first test of the previous day's high and day's lows. There'll be some sellers and some buyers in those areas that'll buy it up or sell it off at the first touch. Okay, my first target was hit. Now I'm hoping we stay over 25. I don't like to use hope when I'm trading, but I wanted to stay over 25, and I just want that pop before closing. So I moved my stop to 24.98.25 to break even. My first target was hit, and I'm like, at this point, I wanted to just stay above 2,500 and make a little pop. At this point, the market is closed. I got stopped out my last position. So I got out of one position and got stopped out my second position at break even. And that was the trade. It took a long time to complete. When I first entered, I entered early during the day. A nice ABC pattern started to show up and work out. And and I held it into the end of the close. I could have closed it out early, but I held it to the end of the day to see if it would play out. And I made 125. Didn't get both targets, but it was a good trade. So that's how I traded the multiple time frames and got a nice ABC pattern at the end of the day.